Let's go to Hebrews chapter 11. We're going to talk about the land now, which God reunited Israel in Christ. We looked at that in Ezekiel 37. In Hosea chapter 1, we see God made the promise, made the prediction. Now we're going to go into Hebrews and see the fulfillment. So Hebrews chapter 11 we're going to. Let's read from verse 4. By faith, Abel offered to God a better sacrifice than Cain. Verse 5. I'm not going to read the entire verse because there's a point I'm making. By faith, Enoch was taken up. Verse 7. By faith, Noah. Okay, so we have Abel, we have Enoch, we have Noah. By faith, Noah. Verse 8. By faith, Abraham, when he was called, obeyed by going out to a place which he was to receive for an inheritance. By faith, he lived as a stranger in the land of promise, as in a foreign land, living in tents with Isaac and Jacob. So we have Abel, Enoch, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. For he was looking for the city which has foundations, whose architect and builder is God. So by faith, even Sarah herself received ability. Okay, so we have Sarah added. Verse 30 now. Prepared, hold on to your seat now. All these meaning Abel, Enoch, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, all these died in faith without receiving the promises, but having seen and welcomed them from a distance, and having confessed that they were strangers and exiles on the earth. I would translate this as in the land. Now, consider this. God specifically said to Abraham, Isaac, and to Jacob, this is recorded in the Bible, that he would give them the land. Do you realize Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob died without receiving the land? That's what it says there. They died without receiving the land. Now, you may say, well, their descendants did. Yeah, their descendants did. But that doesn't change the fact that the promise that God made to Abraham was not fulfilled. The promise that God made to Jacob was not fulfilled. The promise made to Isaac was not fulfilled. Are we saying that God failed in his promise? It clearly says here in verse 13 that these died in faith without receiving the promise, but having seen and welcomed them from a distance, and having confessed that they were strangers and exiles on the earth. Because the point of the matter is, if God promised Abraham land, and he died without receiving that promise, it means that promise still has to be fulfilled to Abraham. If he promised Jacob land and Jacob died without receiving the land, it means that land promise still has to be made to Jacob and Isaac as well. Let's continue. For those who say such things, what are the such things? It's referring to verse 13. Having seen and welcomed them, the promises from a distance, and having confessed that they were strangers and exiles on the earth. So those who say that they are strangers and exiles make it clear that they are seeking a country of their own. And indeed, if they had been thinking of that country which they left, Abraham came out of Ur, it says they would have had opportunity to return. But as it is, they desire a better country. That is a heavenly one. Now, when it says heavenly, it is not necessarily meaning off the earth. Because, for example, in Ephesians chapter 2, it says that those in Christ are seated in heavenly places. That doesn't mean they are off the earth. In Christ, we are in heavenly places, even though we are on the earth, right? So heavenly country doesn't necessarily mean a country off the earth. It just means it is not a physical country. It's a spiritual country. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God. In other words now, God doesn't have to say, boy, Abraham, I really couldn't give you this land, because you died. I mean, what could I do? You died. And Isaac, boy, I really couldn't. Yeah, I would have loved to give you this land, but you died. So what can I do? What this is telling us is that the real land of promise was not dirt and grass. You see that? The real promised land was not dirt and grass. Even though there was a physical land given to Israel, yes, but that physical land was typological, it was typical, it was a type, it was a shadow of the heavenly country. the spiritual land. Just like with Abraham and Isaac, God told Abraham, I will give you a seed from or through your wife Sarah. So when Isaac was born, Isaac was the promised seed for Abraham. But at the same time that Isaac was a promised seed, he was also a type of the true promised seed, Christ. So that when we go back to the Bible now, it says, therefore God is not ashamed, because God doesn't have to apologize. Because it says, for he has prepared a city for them. What city is that? It's the New Jerusalem. It's the New Jerusalem.